Ron Labrozzi. I am the president and partner of Mailstar. My lovely wife, Kathy, is back there. And this is all on improving your profitability. You know, this particular time that we come here, we've really seen a lot of different kinds of organizations. Owners of smaller operations, some that have absolutely massive operations, and you know, we're obviously on the smaller side, but I think from a financially standpoint, I think we do pretty good. I'd like to start out with a survey, and I'd really like it if your participation, if you wouldn't mind. So, those of you that agree that AccuZIP has the best looking customers, raise your hand. Come on, participation. Okay, so a couple of you didn't raise your hand. That's okay. I understand. You know, I can look a little bit better, but I will maybe next year when they do this again. All right, good. So we started our company in 1989, but and we only have 6 employees. And when we started out as a support services company. We did resumes and desktop publishing and that sort of thing. And actually it was when I got my first CD in April of 1992 from AccuZIP, I decided that we were going to go in the mailing business. And for years we struggled. Currently we have a 10,000 square foot facility in Rochester, New York. However, we're moving at the end of the month. So it's going to be a little tough for us, and we just haven't even signed the lease for the new place. We're supposed to do that when we get home. And I'm very lucky I get to work with my wife. I get to even sleep with an employee in the company. Don't get all excited. I said sleep, I didn't say sex. And this is about how to improve profit in your direct mail. I have a video so you can get an understanding about what our shop actually looks like, and you know, I'll explain some of the things. I did this for a presentation in Dallas that I had done, so you can kind of see we're a digital print and mail. So we have 2 digital printers. We have a Ricoh 9110 and a 71SX, a 90 page per minute and 130 page per minute machine. So, you know, most of the stuff we do is digital, and we do it digital because of the fact that we want to do more VDP. And so this is our production facility. The laser printers were put into the office area because we felt that it was best that the graphic design and production art could actually be closer to the printers. We're changing that in the new location though. Obviously stamp affixer, because we believe that more mail gets better response with a stamp, even if it's a pre-canceled stamp. Booklet makers, a lot of the stuff, again, it's not a large shop, but it's a shop that is big enough to be able to do as much as we can for the customer. Wide format, that was an interesting conversation, you know, talking to Kathy going, hey, I want to buy a wide format printer. Why does that have to do with direct mail? Well, a lot of our customers do wide format, and the more we can get into the customer, the longer they're going to stay with us if we're doing the wide format as well as our direct mail. You can kind of see here our inkjet running over 20,000 an hour, and actually that's not even close to top speed. We actually don't know what the top speed is. We do a lot of envelope printing, 4-color envelope printing. Matter of fact, if it's black, it's the same price as color. Wow. The Duplo equipment for cutter slitting and creasing, several folders. This kind of gives you an idea.
Crate up there is a sound dampener.
What's that?
That egg crate that was sort of on top of your folder.
Yeah, and that was from me, and because I'm like, how the hell can I get this thing quiet, man? It's driving me nuts.
Beautiful equipment. Yeah.
Well, thank you. That inserter is 20 years old. Wow. And I have a new one in the production, but the problem was it was going to take 5 to 7 days for them to tear down this one They put the new one in, so we waited, believe it or not, 2 years. And we're going to have the new one sent to the new location and installed before we get there.
And you always have individuals in uniform, or is that just for the video?
Always. Nope, always. Actually, always.
Is it a culture thing?
Yeah, it's a culture thing, you know. Look, we made so much money, I went out and bought a new boat. So,
Show us how.
okay, how do we do financially? So here's last, now keep in mind, I know you guys, some of you work for much larger companies. Our 2018 sales was $1.2 million with a 26% net profit. Our salaries between Kathy and I are $200,000, and we had a $300,000 profit. From a percentage standpoint, that's a pretty big number considering the total of the sales. So that's why I feel that we do pretty darn good considering the size of our company. Okay. We've been doing it for 30 years. So, you know, a lot of our customers, we've actually lost customers because they want to go to a one-stop shop. So let's say that a company is doing, we don't do large, you know, we have a booklet maker, but somebody that's doing 60-page booklets, we're not going to do it on our small equipment. And if they're going to do 30,000, they may find a company that can do both, you know, the print and the mail at one time. So we'll lose on things like that. So definitely, whatever you can do as a one-stop shop is definitely the way to go to help increase, continue to keep your customers within you. Be efficient. I am an efficiency expert. I think she will agree with me that I'm an efficiency expert. No, her. Look at everything. Look at your entire operation. You know, for us, we even do things, I know this sounds crazy and so forth, I count the steps. How many steps does an operator take when they're doing their job? And if you can minimize their steps, you know, I know we all have carts, and as production is being done, you know, you'll have those carts next to you. But I always tell employees, I want to find ways that they could do their job and pivot. Stay on one foot, pivot to grab the material, put in the machine. You notice that my right foot is not moving, my left foot's moving, but my right foot's not moving. Or using both hands, grab with one hand, turn, put in the machine. Little things like that add up. Now, they add up in many ways. They'll add up in ways such as, you know, if you can get done more work in a day and you add one job, just one single job to your thing, you have to look and say, well, what would that one job value be? Maybe it's $100, maybe it's $1,000. You could do one more job a day that really adds up to be quite a bit. And be seamless. How many here, now because we're in the mailing industry, how many people are seamless at their entry post office? Not everybody. Okay. Trust me, seamless is definitely the way to go. Absolutely the way to go. We did not want to go. We were kicking and screaming about full service, and then going, after we became full service, then the post office came and said, look, you guys are the best. Why don't you go seamless? No, we're not going to do it. Now we absolutely are thrilled that we're seamless. What is unique is that when we go to the post office, we actually end up, our mail doesn't get checked. We've been seamless for a year. They told us they're going to randomly check jobs. They have yet to check a job in a whole year. We have clerks from the post office that as we're bringing pallets off the truck, they're putting release tags on those pallets as they come off. And because they want to just cross-dock it. They don't want to check it. They just want to cross-dock it. It took a long time for us to become seamless. we had to be flawless for 6 straight months. Not one error, and they were checking damn near every job. Now, when you're seamless, it's a great selling point. Now, what's shocking is that of all the mailers, there's not a lot of mailers in Rochester. Rochester is not necessarily a large town. It's roughly about 400,000 residents. And I'd say 12 to 14 mailing companies were the only seamless company and have been seamless for a year. They even asked me to speak at a PCC meeting to encourage the other mailers to become seamless. Now, thank God that meeting never happened, because I'm like, okay, so you want me to make my competition better. Yeah, I don't know how well I'll go with that. How many people here have their customers come to their shop? Show of hand. Okay. And do you give them a tour of your facility? Are you proud of your facility? Okay. So we definitely recommend that you don't keep a messy shop. You know, because you've heard that term in the past. A sign of a messy desk is the sign of our cluttered desk is a sign of a cluttered mind, and a sign of a clean desk must be a sign of an empty mind. So, but you don't want this kind of this is actually, we had a professional photographer and an actor that came in, and we did a little bit of a marketing plan to try to show how you could how the buying public is going to perceive your operation. And like, look, they recognize when you're walking through. If they see a messy shop at all, they see something on the floor. To give you an example, I know that I'm probably the most anal person when it comes to this stuff, but if they bring down trays from the rack and they leave it on the floor because they only needed 4 trays, I get mad and I tell them to put the trays back up because they look neat sitting up there, because you never know when a customer or prospect is going to come by. And you want that customer to feel really comfortable about, they don't want to come there and see. If they see a messy shop, they're like, okay, I don't know, is my job going to get done? Is it going to get done right? Are they going to miss some of my pieces? Are they going to lose them? Are they going to fall on the floor? If they see, leftover material, you know how you have operations where you start to ruin pieces and they end up on the floor, and you say, well, when the job's over, I'm going to pick them up. No, pick them up immediately. You don't know if somebody's bringing a customer or prospect through. It also goes through the office as well. Don't have a messy desk. I didn't put the picture of the clean desk with the person, but even as something is silly, as having Post-it notes everywhere. Yes, this is a marketing piece, but in all reality, we have had in the past some employees that put passwords. The cyber guy showed the picture of the Post-it note with the password. We had an employee that I would go in and say, look, you really need to do this. So she would write down and put down on a Post-it note and put it on the computer screen. And then turn around, I'd come back a day later and there's Post-it notes all the way around the computer. I'm like, yeah, I don't think you need all those Post-it notes around there. Who do you sell direct mail to? Nonprofits. So who here does work? We might all do work for some nonprofits, but primarily 70% of our business is actually nonprofits. So who does nonprofit mail? Okay, so there's a few out there. The misconception might be that nonprofits have no money. That's not really true. They have a lot of money. Years past, I know in our area, the executive director of the YMCA, they ended up getting a membership at one of the largest and most prestigious golf clubs in Rochester, and that caused a big issue. Obviously, if you're a nonprofit, I'm sending money. I don't want to send your CEO to a damn country club. So that obviously had some impact. But they do have money. Sometimes they have a lot of money. Some don't really have very much money at all. But what has happened over the years is nonprofits, years past, sent out mail and got their donations. I think I got 90% of the donations from nonprofits all come from direct mail solicitations. And as far as I know, and I might be wrong on this, 100% of mail is printed. Anybody here print, not printed solicitation? Yeah, okay. So you can definitely see how some of the nonprofits, they're a great source of mail, but yet also print as well, especially through VDP. But when the economy goes down, nonprofits literally mail twice as many pieces to get the same amount of donations. Imagine being in an industry where you have customers that have to use twice as much to get the same result. And that's a terrific thing to have, things like that. Have a customer that has to say, I'm really sorry, I have to give you twice as much work. So it's a short presentation. I wanted to keep this more as an open discussion. So thank you very much. And this is a really cute thing. This is the God's honest truth. This is true. This picture and this picture were taken 9 hours apart. Yes. We went from snowshoes to no shoes in 9 hours. That was actually our second trip. I think it was 26 years in business. 24 years for our first vacation. So, questions of how we got to where we are. Anybody have any questions in regards to? Yes?
I just wanted to point out for nonprofits, the
Yeah.
big selling point is many times a nonprofit, their board of directors, which is what is usually the boss for
True.
the nonprofits. My husband's degree as master's is in nonprofit administration, so it fit really well for us for a niche. But the awareness that they think that the postage rate, they don't realize how low the nonprofit postage rate is. And that's a really big selling point for nonprofits.
It is.
And if you don't realize that as a mail house provider, you're missing out on a lot of business.
It's true. Most nonprofits, a high rate for them is 11.1.
Yeah.
I think. Is that right, Kat? I mean, 11.1 cents is the higher.
Even 14 if they're not doing it.
Yeah.
It's really, it's an amazing, and so as a selling tool, I find that is a really, and that a lot of mail houses are not aware of.
Also, with selling to nonprofits, the one thing that we have seen, we changed the way that our direction, our company, the reason why we're doing 70% for mostly nonprofits, is we wanted to be able to help them achieve more. Because most of the mailing companies were transactional. They were more of a, okay, you have something you need done, we're going to do it. You need this sheet printed and folded and inserted into an envelope, no problem. That's not who we are. Who we are is, we look at the piece and go, man, this is a crappy piece. And we said, would you be interested in sitting down and talking about it? Because, if you put yourself in the recipient's position, if I was receiving this piece, would it entice me to give these people any kind of donation? And if it won't, then it needs to change. And it needs to have an emotional connection. So I'm going to give you a story that did happen in our company. And it was a really unique story because we went to this place called Isaiah's House. And Isaiah House was a hospice, thank you. I always forget that word, hospice. And the previous year, what they did for their annual campaign is they took a sheet of paper that looked like it had been copied 3 times They put it on a black and white copier. They made 500 or so copies. They hand folded and stuffed into envelopes, put labels on, and put a 50 or whatever the postage was at the time, and sent it out. And they would generate, $4,000-$5,000. It was amazing. But they had they were also sending it to board members, and some of the board members were given $1,000 or what have you. So it was a good campaign for them. And I went in and I saw it and I went, oh my goodness, you can't do this. This is not, you need to change the way that you do it. And their actual mailing list was like 3,500 to 4,000, but they said they couldn't afford to mail to them all. And I said to them, you got to have faith that what I'm about to tell you or what I suggested you do, you're just going to have faith because you're going to have sticker shock. So I went in there and said, look, this is what you need to do. You need to create an emotion on the piece. And you got to give people a reason why to even open the envelope, why you want them to read the piece, and then be able to give them enough of a reason to actually put something in the envelope and send it back. And I said, do you have any unique stories in your shop or things that you've done? Now, they're called residents, the people that stay. They only have 2 people. And she said, well, there was one that was kind of a unique story, and she ran over to her office and came back, and she said, here's a picture. And she said, the story was, I was coming in the morning, and I called in, and there was this guy there named John. And she said, I'm going to go to the grocery store. Ask John, what does he want? I'll go pick it up for him and bring it in. So the nurse got back on the phone and said, he wants to go to the store with you. Now keep in mind, these are people that are days away from dying. So she says, get John ready, get him outside down a couple of steps. I'm going to stop. I'm going to have my car, go through the car wash. It was a convertible. It was a February day, and I'm going to put the top down, but it was sunny. And I want you to help get him in the car. So she pulls up, the nurse helps him in the car, then she hands the camera to the nurse and says, run down to the end of the street, take a picture when we go by. So she's driving her car down the street, and she tells John, pretend you're on a roller coaster and put your hands up in the air. And that's exactly what they did. And so she says, we went to the grocery store, and because he couldn't walk very well, he got one of those scooters. Holy crap. She says, I ended up having to get on the intercom to get him to come to the front of the store so that we could leave. It was so much of he just got in the cart and started going around. And when she finished that story, I said, Kristen, this is the perfect story. This is the story that you need to tell in your piece, because it has an emotional connection. It's the reason why someone would open that piece of mail. So we went back and we hand drew up what we thought would be the right thing. We got a graphic designer. At the time, we didn't have one, so we got a graphic designer, and that person designed the piece. Now, I cut her a deal. The job should have been a $3,500 job. I only charged $2,500, which was way higher than their budget of $500. And we mailed nonprofit as opposed to her just putting regular straight first class stamps on. And she ended up raising $22,000 that year. So they went from raising $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 to the very next year raising that much. And then the highest year, we've been doing it for like 6 years, our highest year, they're raising in the mid to upper 30,000 range by doing that. Now they don't question whatever I suggest to them to do that. And that's the relationship that you need to have with your customers, is being able to, if they understand, and there was a term that was said in a movie, and I'm probably going to get it wrong. It was, they're not going to care until they know how much you care. And to tell you the truth, that's not just because he walked in the door, but that in a sense that's AccuZIP. They just literally calling there, you know how much they care about you and solving your problem. That's exactly what you need to be doing for your customer. You need to be able to showing them certain things that you can do to solve their problems. And for nonprofits, it's showing them how to raise more money and doing it as effectively as possible. And in the same token, because you're showing them new ways of doing it, you're ended up making more money in the same process. Well, listen, I don't have .org at the end of our web address. I'm not a nonprofit organization. I don't do things necessarily for free. If they ask me, and I need to, I'll do something for free, or help them out in some particular fashion. We also started giving money away to the nonprofits because they were so successful to us and so forth. So that's one of the things you got to do. Find the emotional connection. Talk to the customer. What is it that you do? And try to find that emotional connection. I know that works for profit organizations as well, but it works especially well. And Trish said something yesterday, and I went, man, that's a great idea. Because on the return envelope, you would have said put a message on there, and I'm sitting there thinking, going, what if we had put something on the return piece? Because that's the envelope that's going to sit around for a long time before it gets filled and sent back, because they're going to wait until either A, they're on board and they have the time. It might be they're going to wait till they talk to their accountant to see how much can I, deduct off my taxes on this particular, donation. And then the next time that we do work for those people, what we do, we've all received those little pieces that show the donation amounts. So what we do is when we do the next job for them, because we know how much they donated before, the very first donation is the amount that they had given the previous year. And of course it says, thank you very much for your last year's donation of $25. If you can afford it, we would appreciate you to increase ever so slightly to help us out a little bit. To cover additional expenses that we're having this year versus last year. And so we don't ask for a very large increase. We actually ask for a small increase like 10% or 5. And then we just up it a little bit. Yes?
While we're talking nonprofits, I have a couple of fun tips from case studies that I could share a couple more ideas.
That's why I said it's hard to follow you.
Yeah, no, it was so fun. So a couple of good ones. One was a college that could not get younger generations to donate money to the school. And they were trying to figure out how to generate the revenue. So the idea they had was to ask them to donate an amount that was the number of their graduating year. So in other words, if you graduated in 2005, could you donate $20.05 to? And so it connected with the year. They felt like, okay, that's my year. I can give $20.05, and like all the donations went way up. Another one that went really well was the adding a checkbox, surprise us, to the So by having here's the suggested amounts and then surprise us. Yeah. And when they added the surprise us, people started surprising them with much bigger amounts coming in. And then another one that I just thought was interesting. It's actually like a gardening magazine or something like that. And they were trying to interact with their audience. And they were sending a survey, and they just couldn't get responses. They couldn't get anybody to really respond. They kept sending a survey, nobody would respond. And they decided to ask an irresistible question. And so this was for gardeners. And so what they did is they asked an irresistible question to gardeners. And the question was, how big is your garden? And when they asked that question, people just started writing all sorts of stuff about their garden, the size, what they grow, what they do. And it opened the floodgates because they asked them something not only that they couldn't resist, but that was about themselves. It was less about help us, give us more information. It was kind of, what do you have that, share something about that was personal to them. And so then all of a sudden the communication opened up. So anyway, just kind of fun little things for everybody.
Yeah, I just wonder, do you do fulfillment? Do you collect the responses and do the cashiering?
Currently, we don't take the money. What we do is we take the card itself.
And you
then,
separate the checks and send them over?
no, they do that.
Okay,
So they bring us the cards after they've already done the depositing. So
that
we don't
trigger-
touch the money. We don't want to get involved in it. We don't want to be accused of taking
Yeah.
any of the
Do
money.
you do thank you notes then?
Yes, we do.
So you
And,
get
and
those-
on every single piece, no matter how small
So
the amount.
they don't have to do that, you send those out?
Correct. We don't, again, because it's one thing that if you allow the nonprofit and say, my suggestion is,
Right.
it's going to be in one ear and out the other.
How about a digital connection? That's my second. Do you offer any digital services to?
Not yet,
Okay,
but we will.
yeah.
And he and she both start Monday. So on Monday, hopefully, it'll take a little bit of time, but we're going to get them involved. There was another, let me tell you about another story that happened too that was really funny. This one was funnier than ever. And this happened many years ago. So I had received a request for a donation for a local hospital because where Kathy and I lived. And I called up, but unfortunately they only do it once a year, so I had to wait 9 months before I could get an appointment with this person. And I went in and sat down, and he said, "What'd you think of our mailer?" I said, "Do you want me to speak honestly?" He said, "Sure." I said, "It sucked. It completely sucked. It was probably the worst I've ever seen." So he goes, "Wow, it was the most amount of money we ever raised." I said, "Wow, that's amazing. How much did you raise?" He said, $117,000. I said, "Wow. How many did you mail out?" 50,000. He said, "Now what do you think?" "Worse than I thought." You're going to mail 50,000 annual reports with a letter on the top in a 9x12 envelope. I got to tell you, that's an expensive, stupid process. He said, "Well, I've actually got 2 that I've received in the mail, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to mirror one of the 2." And so he reaches up and pulls a manila envelope, and he pulls a piece out, and I start giggling. And he goes, "Why are you giggling?" I said, "Because I did that one." And then he pulls the other piece out, and I start giggling again, and he goes, "Don't tell me you did this one too?" I go, "Yeah, I did that one too." He said, "I want to do something just like this if you already did it." I said, "Hell no. They don't fit your process. These were for different organizations." And this was for a hospital foundation. So he said, "Well, what do you suggest?" I said, "Well, here's what we're going to do. You have the list of all the people that donated." And he said, "Yes." And I said, "Okay, great. So what we're going to do is we're going to produce that mailing. And when we produce that mailing, it's a very small mailing, you're going to sign every single letter, and you're going to put a personal note on every single one of them. And they're going to get a 4-color annual report, and you are going to explain exactly what you spent the money on. People want to know that you're being fiscally responsible. So that's what you're going to do." It was like 130 or 40 letters. Yes, it was a pain in the butt for them to do that, but in all reality, it was the right thing to do. You wanted, and those are people that had gave, and some were major gifts that were, $10,000-$15,000. So I said, "Now what we're going to do is you're going to get me a list of everybody that's been in the hospital for the last 24 months. And so we're going to purge out the people who gave if they have ever been to the hospital. And that's going to be a list. Then I'm going to purchase a list for a 5-mile radius around the hospital, and we're going to purge out the list of the people that have been to the hospital." So the letter's going to be written to the people that had previously given, that you're going to explain what you did with the money. For the people, that's going to be a very, very, very short letter. The people that had come to the hospital says, "Our records indicate that you've been to our hospital within the last 24 months. We certainly hope that the outcome was a successful one. But if you ever have to come back to this hospital, don't you want to make sure that the latest of technologies is here, as it is in some of the bigger cities? And the only way to do that is through kind gifts such as yours." And we did put in an amount, but we put very small amounts. $5, $10, $25. That's it. And we did put the other. Then the ones that were left were the 5-mile radius, okay? And that letter read, our records indicate that you have not visited our hospital in the last 24 months. Thank God, we hope to never see you. But if we do, and something shows up, don't you think you'd like to have the latest technology in, when you arrive? And the only way to do it is through your help. And then on the thing, we put on the card, we said, there is no such donation too small. And we put the amount. One person gave $10,000. So I created as a gift, I created a poster, and I segmented all of the gifts in certain amount groups. And when I went back, I took the poster to the person that was my contact, and I said, here's what you're going to do. You're going to put this poster up in your emergency room department. You're going to have a little box with a set of envelopes that people can grab the envelope and put money in it and send it in. And the envelope the poster had a really beautiful saying, and at the bottom it said, we would absolutely love to add your name to this list. Take one of the envelopes and please provide a gift if you can afford to do so. So the result was they had raised $117,000. They raised $458,000 the very next year.
That's awesome.
And paid $3,800 less than what they had paid the year before because they put this huge annual report in the 9x12s. We sent out a letter. The only 9x12s were the people that previously given. So it was a huge increase. And then you start that process of continuing that process. The next year you're doing the same thing. You're putting more people on that list, doing the same old things. He had raised so much money in the 3 years we did the project, he was promoted, and they brought somebody else in who had been doing fundraising for a long time and said, this is ridiculous. We're going to do it as a self-mailer. And needless to say, it was the last time we did the job because it wasn't very successful. Yes?
First of all, I'm just so inspired, and
Thank you.
for sharing your story. I'm going to ask a tougher question.
All right.
Tell me about something that didn't work and why, because it can't be all good. I mean, these are amazing stories, but you learn from your mistakes. Have you made any, and what were they, and how can we avoid them?
I did make a mistake 30 years ago, but I'm not going to talk about
It's
it.
like that interview.
That's funny.
Although, did anybody here see the movie, What Women Want?
Yes.
Okay, I figured it out. More. I mean, God love her. I can't afford to divorce her.
The mistake was you didn't marry her sooner.
That's right. That was what it was. I didn't marry her sooner. And it was love at first sight. If anybody, it's a really cool story. It is absolutely amazing. If anybody wants to hear the story, find me. I will tell you the story. It's absolutely amazing. It was love at first sight, absolutely without question.
That's awesome.
And it wasn't her love at first sight.
Oh.
Well,
Me.
I changed my question. Tell me how you did that.
Did we
don't want that on
have?
video.
Believe it or not, we don't have very many. I won't say very many. I don't know of any bad stories. Have there been people that raised a little less money? A few, but not many. And they've been because they refused to do what I asked, and what they ended up doing. I mean, I'll give you an example. It was just happened. This was a recent one. So it was for an ambulance. And so remember, we're talking about emotional connections. And they sent over pictures as we were creating the piece. And one of the pictures was a picture of the ambulance with a wrecked car. And you saw the stretcher. And there was a person there, but you really couldn't tell because the picture, we're talking about a 1-inch by 1-inch photograph. on a letter. So it really wasn't much. And the director said, I'm uncomfortable with that picture on the piece. And I said, you might be uncomfortable, but it's creating an emotion. Even if it's a negative emotion, it's creating an emotion. And so he decided that he wanted to switch that picture out to him and the other person that teaches CPR. And so you see a CPR dummy on a table, and the caption was, come learn CPR. Again, it was good, but it's like, if people see the accident, why is it that the attorneys that have many advertisements, why do they show the actual accidents and stuff crashed up? Because it creates the emotional connection. And what I want is I want people to see it and say, hey, that's an emotional connection. Did they get less than they did before? Yes. Is it all because of that one photograph? Well, you and I will never know. But I personally felt that they should have done the other photograph because it created a better emotion. Or what will end up happening is they want to explain in their letter, they want to explain everything. I want to explain everything that we do. And I go, the problem is people don't have time. It has to be short, sweet, and to the point. Large, block font, easy to read, boom, 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 out the door. You want them to create, because you don't have much time in a direct mail piece. Pull that thing out, I'm going to donate or I'm not going to donate.
Do you ever refuse to work with somebody because they're difficult?
I actually fired a customer.
Yeah.
I fired a customer because they had worked with a bad mailing company before that actually was cheating, and I thought, they can't do it today. It's physically impossible for them to do it. But does anybody here plant load? Yes? Okay, so you're plant load. So what they did years ago, not today, can't do it today. Years ago, the postal employee went in, checked all their mail, put the release tags on, and left. And they unshrink wrapped it and put another couple of layers of tray mail on top, re-shrink wrapped it, and off it went. It literally millions of dollars over the course of years that they would do. And the guy in charge of re-shrink wrapping came to work for me and told me that. So, and that's fraud. I mean, how they got away with it was unbelievable. So.
Moving, I kind of move to a more technical question for you with your nonprofit clients. Are you doing sort of reply mail, or are they putting out place stamp here on some of the return envelopes?
It's not place stamp here.
So you have.
You say gift begins here.
Gift begins here.
Your gift begins here. Because the thing is that Scott, right? Sean. Were you the one telling me that on your nonprofits you put a 55-cent stamp on the return envelope, correct?
We will, many times, yep.
And-
If it's not a
and-
55-cent stamp, it'll be a series of 2 or 3 stamps.
And so his theory, and again, it's not saying his way does or doesn't work. I think his way is absolutely amazing. What he does is beyond amazing. He is the epitome of response because of what they do. The difference is the cost in which to do it. I can't find customers that are willing to have enough faith to go that expense to get the result. So it's like easing them in. You got to kind of ease them in. And, yes, have I had customers that will prepay? They'll either do a business reply envelope, or but if they do a courtesy reply, they're like, well, we do courtesy reply, can we put the stamp on? Well, yeah, you can, but why would you want to spend the money? And more importantly, think about the person who's receiving it. Yes, I'm biased, so I'm going to analyze every piece of mail that comes to my mailbox. And if I open it up and I see they pre-stamp the internal, I'm going to go, I know you wasted money. Because if I'm going to write a $5 check or a $50 check or a $1,000 check, why wouldn't I put a stamp on it? Of course, I work in a mailing company and I wouldn't be paying for it anyways. The mailing company would be paying for it. So I believe putting your gift begins here is the best way of doing it. And then that way You know, they look at it and say, yeah, I gave them a check, but I also gave them that 55-cent stamp.
Maybe ask Sean what he think, what his rate is, what's your estimation of that, how effective that is, or
I wish I could. I am not in the sales realm, but
Could you?
So
I think it's about a 30%
30% return?
return.
But I think he's also dealing with much larger nonprofits. Somebody like Isaiah House would never be able to afford that. I think Sean's working with much larger United Ways and
Can you
nonprofits.
put that on
That their
every
pockets are
outgoing
deeper.
post? Everyone gets a free stamp? Or do you
Not
do it
everything
less?
we do, it's certain projects.
Like
we work
doubling
with
your mail
clients.
cost. You're more than
But
that.
yeah, we a lot of times we'll put 55 cents on the outgoing envelope and 55 cents on the return envelope. as
Maybe
well.
people already
He's
donated.
doing handwriting
Likely
too.
to donate again.
And we all do almost all handwritten.
I'm a bad person. I take those stamps and I cut them out and put them in my little drawer. I'm not a bad person, but I mean, I admit that I do that. At least I'm honest.
But that's kind of the feel. We'll put multiple series on some of the REs, and it gives the feel that somebody's going through their drawer and finding stamps to put on REs.
Sure.
And it's that emotional connection with the client. They're like, even if they get a piece of mail and they'll see 55 cents, they may put 55 cents worth of donation, back to the client. And CREs and BREs are also an option, business reply mail. The client who's receiving them, they're going to pay the post office, but they can also turn around and request refunded money from the post office for those stamps that are on the business reply mail. It's not 100%, but they're still returning some of that money,
Yeah.
and it still has the
It's a
emotional
lot of
connection.
time to do that.
You know, most of the nonprofits don't want to take the time to do an A/B comparison and so forth. I mean, we've done it once before, but in all reality, it's a lot of time.
So I'm about the messaging, like you talk about the messaging, and Shelley did the Templeton Education Foundation for 2 years, and I did it for 10 years. And they had dinner, regularly 200 people would come to the dinner to raise money. And when I took it over, I changed the entire messaging, and I took out everything related to a nonprofit or fundraising. I made this dinner an event, meaning if you were coming to an event, and Kelsey can attest to this, my dinner went from 200 to 1,200 people, and it was the go-to place in town. If you weren't at this event, you were nobody. And we sold out every year because we changed it. People weren't coming to a fundraiser, even though we raised around 110 to 125,000 in just the live auction alone, because we had them there. And we limited to 10 items for the live auction, not 50, just 10, with 1,200 people bidding. And sometimes we go to the FFA event and they have 50 items, like cows, and the things that they're selling, right? And there's only like 300 people in the audience, so you have too many, and it's just saturated. But I would recommend when you're trying to raise money and the nonprofit's going to have an event like a walkathon or something like that, name it something different, because people get really, it's overkill with all the fundraising and nonprofits. So renaming it so people want to be there, just because you're making it like emotional or
Right.
something. So we did that. It was very effective.
For us, it's the emotional connection because we found that most people don't know what that nonprofit does. You hear a name and you say, oh, this is what we do, but then when you walk through their facility and you find out they do 10 or 15 other things that they do within that organization, I go, wow, I didn't know that's what you did. I just assumed you did that. I said, well, yeah, that's what everybody does. Yeah, but that's what you got to tell people. You're not telling people that. They're not seeing it. You need to create that content. We also are firm believers because of the digital, the print and digital, is we want to, in the print, we want to keep the message very, very light and short, and we want to be able to give them the ability of links, whether it be a QR code or a link for them to go to maybe see a video of the story and tell the story that way. So then that way they can do that. And then it also gives them the ability to donate online. So, and the nice thing is if you're using things that can be trackable, you can track the hits, or you can create a landing page specific so that you can tell that those donations came specifically from this piece because it was a specialized URL.
And you're doing that now?
We're working with people. The goal for our company, you know, we're a young company. We've only been doing it 30 years.
Yeah.
So we're a young company. So our goal is to get to that level. Yeah, you know, you've heard the stories of you know blood, sweat, and tears.
Yeah.
And I got to tell you, if I literally had the buckets, they would all be pretty equal,
Yeah,
equal amounts.
I get it.
So, yes, sir.
Have you ever built a campaign waiting for something to hit the news for a nonprofit?
You know what's funny you say that? And this is very, very sad. It's sad that it has to be this way, but the public actually thrives. It was amazing because we got a phone call from our contact at American Red Cross at 9/11 and called up and said, we have to get a mailing out immediately, like within hours of 9/11. And she said, it's really sad, but when there's a disaster, that's when people give. And it's kind of interesting because there's a couple of organizations that I have suggested that we have a mailing set ready to go, and when a disaster happens, all we're doing is print and mail. The list is done, everything's done, the piece has been created or almost created, and then we get it out in 24 hours, and then people, they're seeing it on the news, and then they're getting this, you know, they're more likely to put money in the envelope. So yes.
Okay.
But it's sad that we have to be in a position that
But that just
there has
shows
to be a
you
disaster.
how emotion plays into people who donate.
Yeah.
Trish said it in her thing many times, about people will emotion, like the mail piece has to have an emotional effect.
Absolutely.
Personalization and demographics are so important.
It shows that you're proactive.
Yeah, we're all human beings, and you know that's the nice thing, especially coming to a conference like this, is being able to sit down and talk with other people that do the same thing that we do. You know, for me, and I also do consulting as well. I love the consulting so much that there's a few times I've done it for no charge because I think it's a great thing to do. If there's anything that I could do to help someone, tell me. Come give me. I'll give you my card and just pick up the phone and say, hey, I got a situation. You know, and I've helped people out. I've helped Eric sell several copies of AccuZIP. I didn't do it so that AccuZIP made more money. I did it because I wanted those people to be successful. They had already had print shops. They were thinking about adding mail to their print shop. And one of the customers actually flew out to my shop to take a look at it to say, okay, if you're really that good, I need to see it. And so he spent the entire day with me. And I want them to be successful. They're not competitors to me. I don't even consider the people in my own local area to be competitors to me. If I lose a customer to them, shame on me. I wasn't doing my job.
Right.
Got one more question. I don't know. I didn't know your company at all before, but you work together with your wife. Are you working? You work in the business. Can you just describe briefly for people who may not know you how you divide your job? What's your job versus your job?
My job is to watch her work.
He's honest.
Good at it?
Damn good at it because
That's what matters.
don't look
Good at
at
what you do.
don't look at her ankles for the mark for the handcuffs, you know, tied to the.
You're obviously the creative.
Yeah, the way it is, it's really interesting for us. We have a big wall that separates production with all the office. And so we always say, anything that side of the wall is your responsibility. Everything this side of the wall is my responsibility. But I'm also the president, and it was cute because before we started the company, we had a close friend. And, you know, went to him and said, what do you think? He says, listen, marriage, business. Okay, keep them separated. And so she said, who would be the person responsible for firing people? He goes, well, if it's just the two of you, it obviously would be the president. She goes, he's the president.
It's the tough decision.
Yeah, are you admin and he's operations, or the other way around?
He's operations for production out back,
And you're
and
the
I
office?
handle the office.
Okay.
That's awesome. Great team.
Are you cross
Obviously.
in case one has to be,
Oh, well, I don't know how to run the equipment, but I can certainly tell the employees,
Yeah.
you know, what they need to do.
If they're not running the equipment.
my parents ran a business together for years, and I know
It's
a
not
lot
for
of people.
everybody.
No, but a lot of the best couples that I know are in business together. They avoid it, I don't think.
Yeah, and trust me, the employees know that when the door is closed, it's closed because we're talking about business. We're not doing what they think we might be doing.
So we're gonna want, I think that
Yeah.
if everybody's done, we're gonna go out and do a drone shot, I think, out here.
Oh, cool.
So we come outside and we go kind of right out the left side of the door.
Thank you, everybody.
Hey, Ron,